Chi-Town, yeah.
Drama.
What?
Purchase your tracks today.
Saludos, it's your host, Gabe Morales, returning once again for gangsters, cops, and politicians. In a previous video, we covered Ambrose, which is one of the oldest gangs still active in the Windy City. Like Ambrose, the Latin Counts were also active on the near west side, also documented in 1959 by the Hull House Social Services Center as being a social athletic club in the area. Like the Ambrose, their main enemy in the early days were the Taylor Street Boys, who were an Italian greaser gang. Many of the original Counts were Mexican and hailed from Texas and were related either by marriage or by blood. The Counts are said to have been started in the late 1950s by Joe Escamilla as the Sons of Mexico City. Mexican immigration increased by 1960 to over 500,000 Mexican nationals, and many of these new immigrants, both legal and illegal, settled in Chicago. The Sons of Mexico were renamed the Latin Counts soon after Escamilla formed them. In the late 1950s, the Latin Council visited 17th and Racine to receive social services that were offered to street gangs at the time. These social services agencies existed all over the city of Chicago, and many of them tried to get the street gangs to organize into nonviolent activities. In some cases, this succeeded, in others, it did not. Counts territory in the late 60s was said to have been 16th on the north, Cullerton Street on the south, Racine Avenue on the east, and Paulina Street on the west in the Pilsen district. Like the Ambrose, the Counts were forced out of their neighborhood due to University of Illinois' expansion. They also moved into the Pilsen area in the early 1960s through mid-60s, especially around 16th and 18th in Loomis, now called the most wanted side. At the time, Pilsen was still mainly white, with many Czechs, Polish, and other Eastern Europeans living in it. Per ChicagoGangHistory.com, the name and colors of the Counts, black and red, were taken after the Polish Counts, street gang that operated in the back of the yard community in years prior. They also added a cross with slashes above it and a knight's helmet. The knight's helmet idea came from Knight Brand Matches, a well-known matchmaker company that used black and red on the helmet as an emblem. The knight will usually have 1 to 3 teardrops, meaning anything between doing murder and just doing time. The knight usually has a mustache and moderate beard. They will also often put the numbers 12-3 to signify the 12th and 3rd letters of the alphabet, L and C, meaning Latin Counts. As the Counts grew in membership, they started breaking down into age groups, both senior and junior Count members. And as they spread throughout the city of Chicago, they created new factions wherever they moved. In 1968, they started a war with the Latin Kings, who were growing tremendously, and they also had a beef with the Saint Disciples. The Counts got along with the smaller gang called the Bishops in the late 1970s to 80s, and they created an alliance called the Bishop Count Nation. Latin Counts are also said to have created an Insane Latin Brothers 5 group at the same time as the Bishops. I believe the 5 meant the 5-pointed star. Let me know if that is correct. But by the early 1990s, the younger Counts and Bishops started beefing, where a Count's girlfriend was shot in the heart, while a Bishop had been actually aiming at a Count. The Counts retaliated, killing the Bishop, and there's still bad blood between them today. While they fall under the 5-point star People Nation, they also often beef with people, such as the Latin Kings. Thus, they will often have the king's crown upside down, as well as having various symbols to diss the rival folk nation. The Counts' rivalry increased with the Latin Kings after they moved to Coulter and Damon in 1968. When the Counts joined the People Nation in 1978, they usually got along with Latin Kings inside prison, but they remained at war with them out on the streets. although tensions lessened with the release of counts and Latin kings in the early 80s to the streets from prison. But that didn't last long. The counts were very close to the vice lords, who are a predominantly Black People's Nation gang. I will cover the vice lords in depth in a later video. Nelson Babyface Torres was a Latin Count's leader, and his chief enforcer was Armando Joker Salceda. Starting in the year 1980, the Latin Counts began to expand as they grew into other communities in Chicago, as well as into the suburbs. The Counts had a faction at Coulter and Western in the heart of Chicago community, at 35th and Damon in the McKinley Park area, in Brighton Park at 42nd and Fairfield, at 48th and Morgan in the back of the yards, at 73rd and Richmond, and 71st and Albany in the Marquette Park area, as well as in South Chicago and South Deering neighborhoods. The Latin Counts hung out with the Latin Dragons in South Chicago for a time. In 1984, the Counts began to organize a section at 91st and Commercial, which would become a major Latin Count stronghold for many years. They also moved into the suburbs of Cicero, Chicago Heights, West Chicago, and Addison during the 1990s. In Cicero, they organized at Roosevelt and 18th, and from Austin down to 58th Avenue, in an area known as the Red Zone. In 1992, Don Juan Benny Rios moved to Cicero at the age of 14 and got acquainted with some 12th Street players at Roosevelt and Austin. The 12th Street players then offered up some territory by Parkholme Park by 18th and 51st, and eventually the Counts spread to Roosevelt down to 18th and 58th. In 1994, they began to war with the 12th Street players as the Counts became very powerful in Cicero, becoming one of the dominating forces, and the 12th Street players felt they wore out their welcome. In 2013, DuPage County ordered a gang injunction that prohibited members of the gang, both named and unnamed, from having any public contact with each other or other Latin Counts. According to a lawsuit, the named individuals and unnamed individuals of the Counts engaged in criminal activities from the year 2000 to 2010, and in doing so caused injuries and damage to the people of the state of Illinois, as well as the village Addison, located in DuPage County. In Detroit, they are known as cop killers when they killed Officer Jerry Philpott with an assault rifle in 1995. And the Counts in Detroit have been the subject of several indictments. The indictment in Detroit against the Latin Counts came down in 2008. In Detroit, the Latin Counts primarily operate in southwest Detroit and in the communities of Lincoln Park and Ecorse. In addition to Detroit, they can also be found in nearby Aurora, Illinois, in Indiana, Toledo, Ohio, and in other cities like Kansas City, New York City, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, and I've heard even in Florida. Let me know if you've heard of them being active anywhere else. I want to make it clear here that not all Latino youth are involved in gangbanging, and that includes Pilsen, as well as other parts of Chicago, Cicero, and any other place with a sizable Latino population. Most of the people living in Pilsen have worked very hard to decrease gang violence. It is a place with a very rich history and culture. They are trying to slow down gentrification while still improving their neighborhood, not by erasing its beautiful murals and other cultural art, and not by trying to erase and displace the people who fought very hard to make it there. Police should support the community in those efforts, and the community should support the police, not by defunding it, but by giving it more funding for equipment and training to de-escalate situations when appropriate and to act swiftly to protect the community when absolutely necessary. We have some recommendations in our book for politicians in this regard, and we hope you get on board or stay on board to decrease crime in Chicago. Per my co-author Joe Sparks, the Latin Counts have a deep tradition in the city of Chicago and have been involved in many major crimes over the years. Once again, I'd like to thank Joe Sparks and all of our cop friends in Chicago who assisted with this document, and especially ChicagoGangHistory.com who assisted with this video. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I will continue covering some of the major gangs described in our book, Chicago-Based Gangs, Beyond Folks and People. Next time, this is Gabe Morales signing off for gangsters, cops, and politicians.